Greetings, everybody. Welcome here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other forms of rock music. So we're here for episode 3 of the mini-series that I'm running over the 5-day period, which is entitled The Music of Australia and Canada, the Commonwealth Brothers, which basically means that the two countries are both have allegiance to the crown of the United Kingdom. That's why we have a prime minister as opposed to a president. And so in retrospect, we're kind of brothers. And I've always thought of the Australians as my brothers. We both have a vast interest in popular music, or rock music if you prefer. And I like the stuff they put out as much as I like the stuff we've put out. So that's what we're doing. So the albums I've chosen today, or at least the topic I've chosen for today, is called the Pop Hard Rockers. So the two bands I've chosen to fit this from Canada, we have Max Webster, a band that was quite popular in the late 70s and early 80s, and the Angels, which came around a little before that and continued a little after that as well. So most people who are aware of these two bands knows how neither one of them really had a great deal of international success, but were really popular in their own locales, in their own countries. Max Webster was big here in Ontario and had a bit of a following in the rest of Western Canada as well. They only put out a few albums, but they toured quite a bit with Rush, and that kind of gave them a little bit of an inroads into the US, but not a great deal. The same kind of situation applies for the Angels. They were huge in Australia, well known and well loved by the Australians, to my knowledge anyways. But just couldn't make that jump here in North America, especially in the United States. Probably a lot of it was conflict with the use of the name The Angels, which there was another band here called The Angels, and I think there was a third band just called Angel. So they were asked to use, or they were suggested to use another variant of their name, which they all didn't really like, but they couldn't really make the jump. They weren't overly managed all that well as far as their being put out there. The music was well done and the albums were well put together, but they weren't promoted as well as possibly they could have been. So I think that hurt them as well, unfortunately for them. So those are the two bands we are going to talk about today. I like both these bands for different reasons. I probably prefer the Angels overall because of their consistent hard rock sound that they produced on their albums, and they had more of those albums, so I've grown to like that more. With the Max Webster, who liked to kind of indulge in a lot of quirky things and different styles of music, and had a bit of a sense of humor on stage as well. I never really grew on them as much as I probably should have, but it just never really happened. So those are the two bands I chose today. Max Webster has 6 studio albums, whereas the Angels have 13, so almost twice as many, and very well done, a lot of them. Type of music, of course, with Max Webster, it was a little bit of prog, a little bit of folk, a little bit of punk, a little bit of pop, and even some new wave stuff to their music, which is you'll have to excuse me there, which was, they didn't really have anything they quite fit in 100%, but to me they were primarily a pop hard rock band primarily. With the Angels, they had some pop elements to their music as well, but I really consider them to be more of a hard rock band. and maybe even some of the kind of bar band type music as well, but really well done. The classic band for Max Webster featured Kim Mitchell, Mike Tilgan, Terry Williamson, and Paul Kelsey, and you could throw Gary McCracken in there as well at times. With the Angels, we had Doc Neeson, primarily the lead vocalist for the band's history. Rick Brewster and his brother John Brewster, guitars, and Brett Eccles, I think that's how you say his name, and Chris Bailey. Now, I believe Bailey has passed away. I believe I'm not or if not him, I know Neeson has passed away, but I'm pretty sure Bailey has as well. The biggest album for each of the bands, for Max Webster, I couldn't find it today, or I would have posted it for you. A Million Vacations is the only platinum one they've ever had. Some of their other albums made gold status as well, so were fairly well known. And then you have, for the Angels, I think Face to Face is probably their biggest one, and it's the domestic version that, to me, is the good album. The one that was rearranged for international thing really isn't the same album, a little bit different, and some of the tracks that were classic to the domestic album weren't put on it. I think the domestic album is much better, so I'm going with that one today. And the current status of the bands, well, Max Webster is no longer functioning as a group, hasn't for decades now, as Kim Mitchell went solo and pretty much stayed that way and is still quite active himself. However, in recent years, the Angels have produced album. I think they produced one in 2020 and are still possibly touring as a band. I know that with the loss of Bailey, and I think Brett is also gone, that both of John Brewster's boys, Sam and, boy, I can't remember the other guy's name, are in the band now, playing with them. So anyways, so that is it for today. The two bands that we chose, both really well known, especially respectively in their own countries. The Angels not known over here in Canada, and I suspect that Max Webster maybe has a little bit of knowledge by people like us who watch these channels, but the vast majority of people over there probably don't know who they are, or who they were, I guess is a better term. But both really good bands with lots of interesting stuff and really good sounding pop stuff and hard rock stuff as well. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the mini-series of more music by Australia and Canada, the Commonwealth brothers. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, please hit the like and the subscription. Don't forget to leave any comments about either band or the group, especially about the Australian band, because I'd like to know more. That's a lot of the stuff we get here is, to be quite honest, I find some of it contradicting. Some people will say one thing about the band and about certain members of the band, and other people say stuff that's completely opposite. So I'd like to know more. I guess maybe if I could get a biography on the band, it would be, but I'm not a huge biography reader, so at some point maybe I'll learn more about them. That's my goal. And don't forget to hit the bell for notification of the series, and we will see you. This will come out tomorrow morning, Friday morning, and we will see you back on Saturday for episode 5. So take care. 4, sorry. So take care. Bye.